They say, life can change in a single morning. But for Lily Hart, it all began with a cup of black coffee and a man who never smiled. That old man sat in the far corner of Westway Diner every day. Worn coat, tired shoes, eyes no one dared to meet. He never spoke much, just nodded when asked if he wanted more sugar. Lily served him like she always did, gentle, expecting nothing more than a thank you. But she didn't know. That man was hiding a secret big enough to shake the whole city. One cold, rainy morning, his seat was empty. No coffee poured. No spoon stirring. Only silence, and an absence heavy enough for everyone to feel. Moments later, the door opened. Not him, but 4 men in suits, led by a lawyer. The man in front spoke calmly. "Excuse me, who is Lily Hart?" Every eye in the diner turned toward her. She stepped forward, uneasy. What's going on?" The lawyer opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick envelope sealed with red wax. "From Mr. Henry Whitmore, as per his request, to be delivered only when he's no longer with us." No one said a word. Donna dropped her tray. Gus stared at the envelope, as if afraid it might explode. Lily tightened her grip on it. She didn't understand. Who was he, and why would he leave her anything? Just a small waitress, who only ever poured his coffee each morning. The lawyer gave a soft nod. "You should read it, somewhere quiet." Then they left, leaving behind the smell of rain and a silence thick enough to hold your breath. In Lily's hand, the red seal stayed unbroken, cold and heavy. She looked out the window, watching raindrops fall slowly against the old diner sign. Westway Diner, where everything had always seemed ordinary. Until this morning. And that was when the real story began. Morning in the small town moved slowly, like the breath of an old man. Soft sunlight brushed the window glass, reflecting the dark swirl of coffee in a chipped cup. Inside Westway Diner, Lily Hart had grown used to the doorbell's metallic ring each time someone entered, a dry little sound that told her another long day had begun. She moved between the old tables, shoes whispering on the warped wooden floor. Each step carried its own rhythm, like the quiet dance of routine. People said it was just a small diner, but to Lily, it was an entire world. Her apron was frayed at the pocket edges. Her shoes were worn thin at the heels. But her smile remained, even when her eyes hadn't slept in nights. In the corner, table number 4, where the light slipped through a dusty window. Every morning, at the same exact moment, an old man would walk in. Gray coat, brown hat, footsteps slow, as if time itself hesitated. He always sat there, never anywhere else. Henry Whitmore. No one in town really knew who he was. To them, he was just a gruff old man who liked black coffee, overcooked eggs, and 2 slices of toast. To Lily, he was the one thing that made mornings worth waiting for. In the beginning, he didn't say a word, just nodded when she poured the coffee, eyes fixed on the window beyond. His fingers trembled slightly as he lifted the cup. His clouded eyes held a sorrow Lily didn't dare ask about. Gus Morales, the manager, once told her, "Don't waste your words on him. He never talks back." Donna Pike, her blunt co-worker, laughed. "He probably can't even hear you." But Lily still greeted him every morning, still asked softly, "Would you like the toast a little crispier today?" Even without a reply, she kept asking. She simply believed everyone deserves to be remembered by someone. Then, one morning, as she set his plate down, Henry struggled to cut his toast with a dull knife. Lily noticed his shaking hands. She whispered, "Let me help you." And she cut the toast into 4 equal pieces. He looked up, for the first time. Their eyes met for only a few seconds. He nodded, said nothing, but from that moment, something changed. Every morning after, she poured his black coffee and cut the toast into 4 pieces. A small ritual, a quiet greeting between 2 silent souls. He still didn't speak much, but sometimes, a spare coin left on the table made her smile. Not for its value, but because he remembered. Amid the scent of coffee and clinking silverware, she felt a little less alone. Because in that silence, there was something truer than words. Henry became part of her quiet life, like breathing without thinking. But behind that calm, tiny cracks had begun to form. The rent was overdue. Her mother's medicine is running out. At night, Lily sat in her small room, counting every dollar. When she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's face and Henry's tired smile, the only two reasons she kept going. Then, one rainy day, the doorbell rang, but Henry didn't walk in. His corner table stood empty. The cup of black coffee still steamed. Lily stood there for a long time, cloth frozen in her hand, her heart beating fast in her chest. Something wasn't right, she could feel it. And that feeling would lead her to a door she had never dared to open. A door that, once it swung wide, would change everything she thought she knew. The rain went on through the entire morning. Lily stood by the window, watching droplets slide down the fogged glass. Henry's corner table stayed empty, the chair waiting for someone who might never return. She brought over a cup of black coffee, placed it there out of habit. The scent rose slowly, blending with the cold smell of rain. But no one sat down. No brown hat, no silent nod. All day, Lily worked in quiet. Gus noticed something was different, but only sighed. "Maybe he's sick," he said, voice rough from cigarettes. Donna shrugged. "Old folks, one day they just stop coming back." Lily said nothing. She only smiled faintly, then turned away. But that night, she couldn't sleep. Rain shadows moved on the glass, mixed with memories of Henry's still blue eyes. Something in her felt like she had lost something precious. The next morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She picked up the phone, called the small-town hospital. A calm female voice answered. "Yes, Mr. Henry Whitmore is here. He fell at home." Lily held her breath. "Is he all right?" "He's stable, but there's no family. No one's come for him." Those words echoed in her mind. No one at all. She untied her apron and told Gus, "I need to step out for a bit." Gus only nodded, eyes soft with rare understanding. She ran through the rain, her thin coat soaked, heart pounding fast. When she opened the hospital door, Henry lay there, pale and thin under the cold light. He opened his eyes at the sound of her footsteps. Lily smiled. "I brought you some muffins, and coffee, if the nurse allows." Henry looked at her for a long time, then nodded slightly. No words of thanks, but his eyes seemed warmer. She sat beside him, saying nothing, just listening to the monitor's steady beeps. One beat, then another, like the rhythm of the diner she knew so well. From that day on, Lily visited him every day. Sometimes with daisies, sometimes with nothing but small stories from the diner. She told him about the boy who spilled milk, about Donna's complaints, about the flickering neon sign above the counter. Henry listened. Sometimes she thought he didn't hear a thing, but one morning, he whispered, "The diner. Still busy?" Lily froze, then smiled. "Same as always, except your table's still empty." Henry exhaled softly, a faint smile like evening light. The nurses started calling her Mr. Whitmore's little granddaughter. They said they'd never seen anyone care for a patient so patiently. But to Lily, it wasn't kindness. It was gratitude, because Henry had made her feel needed. One afternoon, he asked, "Tell me, girl, why do you do all this?" Lily looked at him. "Because sometimes people just need someone to sit with them." Henry closed his eyes, nodded gently. A long silence. Then a whisper, almost lost in the air. "Thank you." A few days later, he was discharged. His steps were slow, his hands still trembled, but his eyes were brighter. When he walked back into Westway Diner, everyone went quiet. Donna watched, then murmured, "Maybe he needed someone too, like all of us." Lily helped him off with his coat and hung it up. She brought his coffee, setting it gently on the table. He said softly, "Thank you for not walking away." She smiled. "I don't have a habit of leaving people behind." Days passed, and the diner returned to normal. But between them, An invisible thread had formed, something unnamed, but real in every glance. She didn't know that in those quiet mornings, Henry had been writing in a small notebook. Each time she smiled, he noted it down, as if he wanted to remember that moment forever. And within those pages, her fate was already written, silently, patiently, waiting to be revealed. The rain slowly faded in the days that followed. The sky over Clearwater turned a pale, transparent gray, as if someone had just wiped away the dust of heavy months. Westway Diner grew busy again, laughter and clinking dishes filling the room, but inside Lily, a quiet emptiness still lingered. Her mother remained in the small nursing home at the edge of town. Medical bills piled up like paper mountains that never stopped growing. Lily worked double shifts, mornings at Westway Diner, nights washing glasses at the corner bar. Sometimes her hands bled from the cold dishwasher, but she still tried to smile. Whenever someone asked, "You all right?" she would say, "I'm fine." No one knew she sat by the window each night, watching car lights glide past, wondering when life would stop testing her. Henry still came every morning. Not many words, just a nod, a slow sip of black coffee. But Lily could see it. His eyes quietly followed her. Whenever she spilled water or dropped a spoon, he would smile gently, the smile of someone who knew what weariness felt like. One morning, as she was clearing the table, Henry asked softly, "Girl, how old are you?" 24. "And your dream?" Lily froze. "My dream? I once wanted to study art, but tuition feels farther than the sky now." Henry looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Nothing is too far, if you keep walking." She smiled faintly, yet inside her chest something stirred, as if he knew more than he was saying. Days passed, and the weight of money grew heavier. Her mother needed new medicine. The insurance refused to cover it. Lily sat by her mother's bed, holding her hand, voice trembling. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll find a way." Her mother smiled softly, eyes calm like moonlight. "My dear, just keep your kindness. The rest will find its way." That night, Lily rode her bike home through the cold mist. She stopped on the bridge, stared at the dark water shimmering under streetlights. In the wind, she heard Henry's voice again, "If you keep walking." She pressed her lips together, tears mixing with rain, then kept riding. A week later, Donna muttered at the counter, "That old man must be rich, who wears a worn tweed coat with Italian shoes." Gus waved her off. "Rich or poor, as long as he pays." Lily said nothing, but the thought took root in her mind. Henry, who was he, really? The next morning, she saw him writing in a small leather notebook. When she came to pour his coffee, he closed it quickly. She smiled. "Writing a diary?" Henry answered softly. "No, just things worth remembering." "And today, is there something worth remembering?" He looked at her, then nodded. "Yes." That one word warmed her heart in a way she couldn't explain. From that day, she began to write too, one small line each evening. "He smiled when I dropped a plate." He wore his brown coat again, same table. Having someone quietly care about you feels like a small miracle. One afternoon, when the diner was nearly empty, Henry left behind an old sketch. It was her, cutting toast, drawn in pencil, simple yet delicate. At the bottom, a single line read, "The kindness of ordinary hands." Lily's hands trembled as she held it. She had never seen herself through such gentle eyes. That night, she came home late. The money in her purse was barely enough for bread and her mother's medicine. But inside, something had changed. Not hope, but a quiet faith that kindness never disappears. It only waits to be seen. She still didn't know. Henry had already written her name into another chapter of his life. A part not listed on any menu, with no price beside it. A part reserved only for those who once made him feel alive again. Then the next morning, table 4 was empty. No newspaper, no coffee cup, only a small folded note lying on the table. "Thank you for remembering me." Lily stood still. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. A short line of words, Yet behind them, a quiet storm of fate was beginning to rise. She didn't know. That was the last time he would ever walk out of Westway Diner. She didn't know that his silence was the first sound of the greatest storm her life would ever face. That morning, the sky looked drained of all color. Lily unlocked the door to Westway Diner. A rush of cold air made her shiver. Table 4 was still there, neat, silent, and strangely empty. She brewed a cup of black coffee, placed it down out of habit. The steam rose softly, fragile as the hope left inside her. A few regulars glanced over, then returned to their newspapers. No one asked, but everyone felt something was wrong. By noon, Donna sighed. "Maybe he's gone, Lily. Old folks sometimes just disappear like that." Lily didn't reply. She wiped the same table for the 10th time and looked out the window again. The sky held no rain, yet something was falling inside her eyes. The diner moved on as usual that day. The sound of forks and knives, the bell above the door, the calls for more coffee. Only Lily kept listening, to the silence at table 4. That night she walked home through the cold wind. A small room, thin walls, flickering light. On the table, Henry's note still lay there. "Thank you for remembering me." She brushed her fingers across the words, her heart aching as if pulled back to the morning he last looked at her. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. A strange unease crept into every breath. Henry had never been absent without a word. She reached for her phone, hesitated, then dialed the hospital. The nurse's voice was calm, familiar, and cold. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm sorry. He's no longer here." "You mean discharged?" A pause. "No, he passed away last night. We reached out to family, but no one came." The sounds in her room vanished. She gripped the phone tightly, her throat closing. After a long silence, she whispered only 2 words. "Thank you." The next morning, Westway Diner opened as usual. Donna asked softly, "Lily, you all right?" Lily only nodded. But when her eyes met table 4, her hands began to tremble. By noon, the bell above the door rang. Not Henry. 4 men in black suits entered, slicing through the air of the diner. One of them spoke, his voice low. "Excuse me, are you Lily Hart?" She stepped back slightly. "Yes, I am. What is this about?" The man handed her an envelope. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Henry Whitmore." The air in the diner grew heavy. Donna froze behind the counter. Gus looked up, half a sandwich still in his hand. He's gone," Lily said, her voice shaking. The man nodded slowly. "He left a message for you." She opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten line. "Believe in the good, even when no one else does." Beneath the note was an embossed card. Daniel Cross, Whitmore and Associates. Lily looked up, her breath catching. "Who are you to Henry?" "His personal attorney," the man said. "Mr. Whitmore requested your presence at the office to hear his final will." A plate fell somewhere behind her. Donna covered her mouth, eyes wide. Gus muttered, "His will?" Lily stood still, gripping the paper tight. A strange feeling rose in her chest. Fear and certainty tangled together. Henry had left this world, yet somehow he was still leading her forward. She looked around the diner. The smell of coffee lingered. The light still shone on table 4. But her life had just turned a page. A new chapter, where kindness itself was about to be tested, in ways no one could ever imagine. That afternoon, the sky looked like a crumpled sheet of gray paper. Lily sat quietly in the small break room of Westway Diner. The business card on the table felt like a piece of cold metal. She read the embossed name again and again, Daniel Cross, Henry Whitmore's personal attorney. Questions kept rising in her mind. Why would he leave a message for her? Why her? A nameless waitress in an old diner no one remembered? She decided to go to the hospital the next day. Not to look for answers, but simply to say goodbye. When she stepped into the long hallway, the air smelled of disinfectant, cold enough to make her shiver. A young nurse recognized her. "You're Lily, right?" "Mr. Whitmore talked about you a lot." Lily froze. About me? The nurse smiled softly. He said, "You were the only one who still asked if he wanted more sugar." The words pierced her heart like a needle. Lily lowered her head, whispered a thank you, and followed the corridor toward the private ward. The small room was neat, the bed freshly made. Beside it stood a vase of white chrysanthemums. Someone had arranged them with quiet care. On the bedside table, among a few medical papers, lay a worn leather notebook. On the first page, written in slanted ink, Henry Whitmore. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The words inside made her throat tighten. October 18, she cut the toast into 4 pieces again. As always, and I felt peace in the repetition. Lily sat down. Each page turned like the slow breaths of memory. October 22, she smiled, though I know she was tired. Kindness never makes a sound. Some entries were short. Some read like letters. Perhaps I never thanked her properly. But if she knew, she'd understand that my life felt warm again, just because of a morning cup of coffee. Lily couldn't hold it anymore. Tears fell, smudging the final line. She doesn't know, but she saved me from silence. Next to the notebook was a small photograph. Henry sat at table 4, looking out the window. Light touched his face, gentle and still. In the blurred background, there she was, smiling, a tray in her hands. She gripped the photo tightly, whispering as if he could still hear. "Mr. Henry, I just want you to know, I never did it out of duty." Her voice cracked, dissolving into the quiet air of the room. A nurse entered softly, placing an envelope on the table. "We were told to give this to you, if you ever come back." Lily stared at it, heart pounding. Her name written in that familiar hand, Lily Hart. Inside was a short letter. "My dear girl, if you're reading this, it means I've gone ahead. Don't grieve too long. Everyone has their own way of leaving the world, and I chose peace. Thank you for giving me that. Keep doing the small things because sometimes it's the smallest things that change an entire life." Lily clutched the letter, tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time, it wasn't just grief. It was the feeling of being trusted, seen, and remembered. When she stepped outside the hospital, a cool breeze brushed through her hair. She looked up at the fading sky. A soft wind passed by, light as his voice in her memory. And inside her, something quietly began to glow. She didn't know yet that only a few days later, her quiet life would be torn apart. And every word he left behind would become the map guiding her through the coming storm. When Lily returned to Westway Diner, the morning felt quieter than usual. The smell of coffee still drifted through the air. Light spilled gently across table 4, but no one sat there anymore. She placed a cup of black coffee on the empty table, her hands trembling slightly. Donna watched, then sighed. "You're still making his coffee?" Lily nodded softly. "Old habits die hard, and maybe it's how I remember." The diner fell silent for a long moment. Only the soft hiss of the coffee machine, the faint clink of cutlery. Gus came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron, voice rough. "Henry Whitmore, what kind of man was he, Lily?" She gave a sad smile. "Hard to describe. He didn't say much, but every word stayed with you." She paused, eyes drifting toward the dusty window. It was like he knew more than he ever told. A week passed. Westway Diner kept welcoming customers, but inside Lily, something still stirred. The letter, the notebook, the message, all felt like unfinished pieces of a puzzle. She could feel it. Henry hadn't said everything. Late one night, after closing, Lily stayed behind to clean. She opened the drawer under the counter and noticed an old envelope wedged beneath a stack of receipts. On the front, written in that same familiar hand, "For Lily, when she's ready." She held her breath and opened it. Inside was an old brass key and a small folded note. "Don't look for me in memory. Find me where I began again." Lily stared at the key, confusion filling her chest. The metal was tarnished, its head engraved with 3 letters, H-W-E. Her fingers traced the carved initials as if touching a secret waiting to be unlocked. The next day, Daniel Cross called. His voice was steady, professional, yet beneath it, she sensed a quiet weight. "Miss Hart, according to Mr. Whitmore's final instructions, we need you at our office. There are matters regarding the estate he wanted to pass on." Lily froze, gripping the phone tighter. "I'm just a waitress. You must have the wrong person." "No mistake," Daniel replied slowly. He was very clear. "You're the only one worthy of hearing everything." The words struck her like a chill through her heart. She looked around the diner. Everything seemed the same, yet the air felt different. Outside, the sky hung low and gray, heavy, like it was holding back a storm. Donna stepped out, hesitating. "What's going on?" Lily whispered, eyes fixed on the key in her palm. "I think Henry never really left." And in that moment, lightning flashed beyond the window. White light flooded table 4, where the untouched cup of coffee sat cold. Something was beginning to wake from the silence. That morning began with an eerie kind of silence. Westway Diner opened like any other day, but no one spoke much. Donna wiped the counter. Gus started the coffee machine, and Lily just stood by the window, watching. The sky was heavy and gray, the wind sharp, as if the whole town was holding its breath for something. The doorbell rang, that metallic sound cutting through the thick quiet. 4 men in black suits stepped inside, their shoes wet from the morning fog. Every eye in the diner turned toward them. The man in front was tall, silver hair, face firm but polite. "Miss Lily Hart?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. She set her cup down, heart racing. "Yes, that's me." He opened his briefcase and drew out a sealed envelope. "I'm Daniel Cross, legal representative of the late Henry Whitmore. We're here according to his final instructions." The air in the diner felt suddenly thin. Donna stopped breathing. Gus put down his spoon, eyes uncertain. Lily stood still, as if time had frozen. Daniel placed the envelope on the counter before her. "Mr. Whitmore left specific directions, asking that this be delivered to you personally." Lily didn't take it right away. She looked at the men in their pressed suits, then at the thick envelope resting on the counter. "There must be some mistake. I'm just a waitress. He must have family." Daniel shook his head gently. "No mistake," he was clear. "You were the only person he trusted in his final years." His tone softened, almost a whisper. "And he requested your presence at our office to hear the official reading of his will." From the kitchen, Gus stepped closer. "Wait, his will? You mean to tell us Henry Whitmore left something to her?" Daniel turned calmly. "Mr. Whitmore wasn't just your regular customer. He was the head of Whitmore Industries." The words struck the room like lightning. Donna nearly dropped her tray. Silence swallowed the diner. Gus stared, voice rough. "You mean Henry was that Henry Whitmore? Whitmore Industries?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." Lily could barely believe what she was hearing. She looked around, and suddenly, everything in the diner felt foreign. The old wooden tables, the dim light, the smell of coffee, all of it seemed covered in a thin mist of disbelief. Her voice trembled. Why me?" Daniel met her eyes for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Because you were the only one who didn't see him as a name." The simplicity of that answer left her speechless. It wasn't pride she felt, it was fear. The quiet fear of someone about to step into a world that wasn't theirs. She opened the envelope. Inside was a short letter, written in shaky but steady handwriting. "My dear girl, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I once lived in silence for far too long, until you made it bearable. Thank you for making my life less lonely. Now it's my turn to help you begin again." Beneath the letter was a small metal card engraved with the Whitmore Holdings logo. On the back, an office address. Daniel spoke quietly. "We'll pick you up tomorrow morning. And you should prepare for things you never thought possible." Donna stood frozen. Gus only shook his head slowly. Lily sat down, staring at the open envelope. Her heart pounded hard, but between the fear, something else began to stir. A faint sense that Henry was still leading her, along a path he had already drawn. Outside, the first winds of the season swept past the diner's sign. The metal letters rattled softly, a long, low hum. Like an old promise, just waking from a long sleep. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Henry's letter lay open on the table, beside the cold silver card glinting under the lamp. Every line he wrote seemed alive, as if he were still sitting somewhere in the diner, smiling, watching her pour coffee. She read it again, for the 5th time. Every person begins in humility. Mine began in a small diner, where I learned that not everyone hungers for food. The words pierced her heart. She remembered Henry once saying, "Sometimes people don't come to eat, they come to be seen." Back then, she had only smiled. Now, she understood. She turned the metal card over. The engraving shimmered faintly. Whitmore Tower, floor 47. A world completely apart from Westway Diner, far beyond anything she could imagine. But somewhere deep inside, her fear had turned into a quiet, persistent curiosity. If he trusted her this much, maybe she should believe she was meant to know why. The next morning, soft rain fell. A black car stopped in front of the diner. Daniel Cross stepped out, polite, composed, and wordless. "Are you ready, Miss Hart?" Lily took a deep breath. "Maybe not, but let's go anyway." She sat in the back seat, watching the small town fade behind the window. Old stores, faded signs, the sound of car horns mixed with rain. All of it blurred away, replaced by a city sharp and distant. Cold towers filled with secrets she didn't yet know how to name. Whitmore Tower rose ahead, a blade of glass slicing through the clouds. When the doors opened, the scent of expensive perfume mingled with polished oak. Daniel led her to the 47th floor. A large, quiet room, soft yellow light, walls lined with abstract paintings. A woman in a black suit was waiting. Sharp features, cold eyes. Daniel spoke gently. "Victoria Whitmore, daughter-in-law of the late Henry Whitmore." Victoria stood, her voice cut like glass. "So, you're Lily Hart, the woman my father-in-law mentioned in his will." She paused, letting her gaze travel from Lily's shoes to her face. "Not what I expected. I thought he made you up to amuse his lawyer." Lily stayed calm. "If that upsets you, I can't say I'm any happier." Daniel's tone hardened. "Mrs. Whitmore, please. Let's keep this professional. Miss Hart has every right to be here." Victoria turned away, lips tight, a flicker of frost in her eyes. "Then let's see what he decided to leave an outsider." Daniel opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick envelope and a folder. "Alongside his financial estate, Mr. Whitmore left a personal letter for you." He slid it across the table. "It's handwritten. I haven't read it." Lily unfolded the letter slowly, her breath unsteady. The handwriting leaned slightly, shaky yet deliberate, every line carrying the weight of a life. "Lily, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. But I still believe some meetings aren't accidents. I sat at Westway Diner not for food, but to find someone real." Her hands trembled as she read on. "I once lost everything, faith, family, and the good part of myself. You didn't know, but your smile reminded me that there's another way to live, simpler, kinder." Tears fell onto the page, blurring the ink. "I leave you the only thing that ever gave me peace, Westway Diner. I bought it 6 months ago through my company, quietly. No one knew. You'll be the one to keep it alive, the way you once kept me." Daniel looked up, voice steady but warm. "He left you the diner and a trust fund to keep it running." Victoria laughed, a short, sharp sound. "A rundown diner and some cash? Typical of him." But Daniel wasn't finished. "And a $5 million endowment. He made it clear, it can only be used if you continue to run the diner and help others." Victoria's face froze. The room fell silent. Lily looked down at the letter, tears still clinging to her lashes. It wasn't about the money. It was about the meaning behind it. Henry had seen something in her, something she hadn't yet seen in herself. A piece of goodness he wanted to preserve in the world. Daniel spoke softly, his words heavy with purpose. He called it the Legacy Fund, A fund for kindness. Lily folded the letter carefully. Her voice was barely a whisper. He really believed kindness could survive in business. Daniel nodded. He didn't just believe, he passed that mission to you. She stood still as the afternoon light poured through the glass wall, brushing her face with a quiet glow. In her eyes, fear faded, replaced by something fragile yet bright, resolve. She looked down at the Whitmore card in her hand and said softly, "If that was his wish, I'll make it worthy of him." Daniel gave a small nod. "Then prepare yourself. That diner isn't just a place. It's the beginning of something much larger." Lily smiled faintly, calm and sure. In that moment, she didn't know. The door Henry left open was not just an inheritance, but the beginning of a battle between kindness and ambition waiting in the shadows. The evening wind roared through the glass hallway, rattling the metal plaque that read, "Whitmore Holdings." Inside the room, the air was thick. Daniel sat still, fingers interlaced on the table, eyes thoughtful, as if weighing something heavy. Lily hadn't moved. Before her lay Henry's letter, still carrying the faint scent of old paper. Victoria stood with her arms crossed, voice sharp and cold. "Are we done, Daniel? I have other things to do. We both know a diner can't change anything in this empire." Daniel looked at her calmly. "Not quite done. There's a second envelope, one he instructed to open only when Miss Hart is present." The room fell silent. Victoria froze, her brow tightening. "A second envelope?" Daniel nodded, taking out a sealed envelope from his case. Red wax glinting under the light, the surface engraved with 3 words, "For the moment." Lily's heartbeat quickened. Daniel slid it toward her. He said, "Only you can open it." Victoria laughed dryly, her tone dripping with disdain. "How absurd. A waitress gets to read something the family can't." Daniel's voice was soft, but firm. "You'll understand why, once she reads it." Lily touched the envelope. The wax softened under her fingers, melting as if it carried her racing pulse. Inside was a thin letter and a small silver key. She unfolded the paper. "Lily, if you're reading this, you already know I've given you a piece of my life. But there's another truth, one I never told you. Not out of fear, but because I wanted you to discover the worth of trust for yourself." Her eyes blurred with tears. "In my family, kindness was seen as weakness. Victoria and Cole believe power must be guarded through fear. But I chose to believe in goodness. And you, Lily, you are my final proof that I wasn't wrong." Victoria exhaled sharply, stepping forward. "What is this? Some moral lecture?" Daniel raised a hand for silence. "Keep reading, Lily." Her voice trembled. "The key in this envelope belongs to a room on the 48th floor, west corner. Inside lies what I regret most, and what matters most. If you choose to enter, you'll see everything. If not, hand the key to Daniel. He'll destroy it." Lily closed her fingers around the key. The cold metal pressed into her palm, but inside, warmth flickered like a hidden flame. Henry hadn't just left her wealth. He had left her a question, one about courage and faith. She looked up at Daniel. "What's on the 48th floor?" Daniel stayed silent. Victoria cut in, voice sharp as glass. "Don't waste your time. It's another one of his mind games. An empty room, and a few old keepsakes. He always loved his theatrics." Lily's eyes stayed on Daniel, waiting for the truth. Finally, he said quietly, "No one has entered that room since the day his wife died. That key is the original." The air grew heavy, pressing on every breath. Victoria's hands clenched, but a flicker of unease crossed her face. Lily saw it. Henry once wrote that truth frightens people most when it threatens to free them. She stood, voice calm. "I'm going to the 48th floor." Victoria shot up, her chair scraping hard against the floor. "You have no right." Daniel spoke each word slowly. "She has every right, by Mr. Whitmore's will." The room went dead quiet. Lily held the key and walked to the door. Her footsteps echoed through the silence, like a clock counting down. As she stepped out, Victoria whispered, lips trembling. What did he hide up there? Something even I was never allowed to know? Daniel's reply was low, deliberate. Perhaps the only thing he believed you'd never have the courage to face. In the elevator, Lily stood alone. The steel walls reflected her face, equal parts fear and resolve. She looked down at the small silver key in her palm, hearing Henry's voice echo in her mind. Sometimes, kindness isn't just about giving. It's about daring to look straight into the truth. The elevator doors slid open. A gust of cold air swept in. At the end of the dim hallway stood a single wooden door, dark, solemn. The silver lock shimmered under the faint light, like an eye from another world. Lily stepped closer, each footfall heavier than the last. She slipped the key into the lock, her hand trembling, heart pounding. A quiet click. The door opened. Light spilled out, soft and pale, like morning fog. And what she saw inside stole the breath from her chest. It wasn't just keepsakes. It was photographs, documents, and a worn leather file stamped with a name she had never seen before. The Kincaid file. In that moment, Lily understood. Henry hadn't only left her an inheritance. He had left her a secret. A secret powerful enough to change everything, including the people who would do anything to keep it buried. The 48th floor was drenched in dim light. The air carried the scent of old wood and silver paper, something between memory and time. Lily stepped carefully, her shoes brushing the creaking floor. On the walls hung dozens of framed photographs, none of Henry himself, but of other people. Strange faces, yet familiar eyes. A brown-haired girl smiling. A woman holding a teacup. A group of factory workers standing before the old Whitmore plant. Each photo was signed in the same careful hand, Kincaid. At the center of the room stood a long wooden table, layered with dust. Upon it lay a leather notebook. Lily opened it. The pages were filled with hurried, slanted handwriting. Project Kincaid is not just a deal. They don't realize. They're selling their conscience. She flipped through more pages. Cole and Victoria want this buried. If I refuse to sign, they'll remove me from the company I built. I need proof. I need someone who believes me. Her hands trembled. Attached were copies of contracts, photographs of money transfers, half-torn letters with missing headers, and at the very end, a single note. If I disappear, Kincaid will take control. If you're reading this, Lily, be careful. They won't stop. The door behind her creaked open. Daniel's voice entered softly, steady but firm. I knew you'd find it. She turned. He stood in the golden light, expression grave. You knew about this? Daniel nodded slowly, eyes heavy. I helped Henry hide those files. He believed you were the only one who could reveal the truth, the right way. But why me? Because you live right, even when no one's watching. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Victoria appeared, followed by Cole Whitmore. Tall, young, immaculate, his eyes cold and sharp. He scanned the room, then fixed his gaze on Lily. You shouldn't be here, Lily answered quietly. Mr. Henry left me the key. Cole smirked. My grandfather made mistakes. You really think a waitress can understand corporate matters? Daniel stepped forward. I'd watch your tone, Cole, especially in this room. Victoria snapped, her patience gone. Enough of this moral theater, Daniel. She's trespassing on private property. We have every right to remove her. Lily looked at them both, voice calm, steadier than she expected. What about the people in these files? The ones you erased? The workers fired when Kincaid took over the old plant? Victoria froze. Her eyes flicked toward Cole, then turned back to Lily. You don't understand. This is business, not charity. Lily's voice lowered, firm but quiet. And that's exactly why Henry couldn't rest. The room thickened with silence. Daniel slid a chair toward her. Sit. Let's do what he wanted. Read the last letter together. Lily opened the desk drawer. Inside was another sealed envelope. The faded handwriting was still clear. To the family. She began to read slowly, every word cutting through the still air. My dear family, I don't blame you for wanting to protect what you believe is power. But if you're reading this, know this company was never built on money alone. It was built on the trust of thousands of people. And without that trust, nothing here truly belongs to us. Quote. Lily looked up. Victoria's head was bowed, her lips pressed tight. Cole turned away, eyes averted. The letter continued. I didn't choose Lily because she's special. I chose her because she still sees the human being inside the thing you call an asset. If you wish to keep this legacy, do what she does every morning. Start by listening. Lily's voice wavered as she reached the end. Don't let the company bearing the Whitmore name become a place people fear to enter. Let it be a place people feel respected when they leave. Silence fell. Daniel nodded slowly. Henry always knew how to make people face themselves. Victoria sank into a chair, hands trembling. He always believed in something that doesn't exist. Kindness in business. And now he's left everything to a stranger. Lily met her eyes, gentle but firm. He didn't believe in me. He believed in what he saw still alive in all of us. Cole clenched his fists, glancing at his mother. Enough. If the will is valid, we can't stop it. Then he turned to Lily, voice low, half warning, half curious. You have no idea what you've just inherited. Lily replied softly. I do, a responsibility. Daniel looked around the room, then said quietly, Henry once told me, family isn't who divides your wealth, it's who helps you keep your values. A breeze slipped through the doorway, stirring the papers. Light from the window touched the photograph of Henry smiling faintly. For a long moment, no one spoke. But everyone understood, this family meeting wasn't about dividing what was left. It was the beginning of a new battle, between kindness and the greed already waking again. Lily drew a deep breath, folded the letter carefully, her eyes steady and bright. Something inside her had changed. It was no longer fear, but the quiet faith that Henry had never really left. He was only waiting for someone brave enough to finish the story he began. After the tense meeting, Lily quietly returned to the 48th floor. The room was darker now, only a faint light filtered through the window. Wind slipped through the curtains, making the framed photos tremble softly, like memories whispering her name. She held the silver key Henry had left behind. At the end of the room, behind a tall mahogany shelf, there was a small door, almost invisible against the wall. The silver lock gleamed as she approached. Daniel followed, his voice low and even. That's the room Henry called the key room. No one ever entered it except him. Lily turned the key. The soft click of metal echoed in the silence, like the beginning of something. The door opened. A rush of cold air drifted out, carrying the scent of old paper and fading pine. Inside was small, barely enough space for two people. Hundreds of keys hung on the walls, each with a number carved into it. Under the dim gold light, they shimmered like falling stars. In the center stood a round table, a wooden box resting on top beside a folded note. Lily read the writing softly. Each key belongs to someone I once trusted. Not everyone kept that trust, but each time I gave it away, I learned something new. She opened the wooden box. Inside was a single golden key, different from all the others. A small folded paper lay beneath it. Henry's familiar handwriting. If you've found this key, it means you've understood. Trust only matters when you dare to test it. This key doesn't open a door, it opens the truth. Daniel looked around the room, his eyes full of quiet memory. He once said this room was the map of his life. Every person, every mistake, every chance, it's all here. Lily held the golden key in her palm. The metal was cold, but in her chest, something warm began to stir. Could it be connected to the Kincaid project? Daniel nodded slightly. Maybe. He was haunted by that truth until the end. She walked to the left wall. Each key had a small tag, worker, partner, advisor, assistant, and some with names scratched out. At the top corner, she saw an old tag. Its letters were almost faded. Only two remained. V. K. She looked up. Victor Kincaid. Daniel nodded, voice nearly a whisper. They were once friends, before they became enemies. Lily gazed at the rows of glimmering keys, each one a story left untold. Henry once trusted them all, and now he's left me the power to unlock the past. Daniel's tone softened, his eyes shining with memory. That's why he chose you. Because he knew you wouldn't use the keys for revenge, but for understanding. Lily placed the golden key back into the box, her hand trembling. What about my key? Is it here too? Daniel smiled faintly. Yes, Henry hung it long ago. He walked to the far corner of the room and pointed to a small copper key gleaming faintly. The tag read neatly, L. Hart, Morning Coffee. Lily stood still. The two simple words made her eyes sting. She whispered, as if Henry could still hear her through the silence. You kept even the smallest moment, just for a cup of coffee? Daniel's voice was calm and gentle. For him, kindness was never a small thing. The room fell silent. Light glimmered across the wall of keys, as if hundreds of souls were watching. Lily closed the door slowly and held the wooden box close. She turned to Daniel, her voice steady. Maybe it's time to unlock the truth he left behind. Daniel nodded. Just remember, every key opens a door, and every door comes with a price. Lily tightened her grip on the box and stepped out. Behind her, the lights dimmed, until only a faint golden glow remained on the last hanging board. It swayed gently in the breeze, reflecting the words Henry had carved beneath it. It isn't the key that opens the door, it's the trust that keeps it from ever closing. When Lily stepped out of the key room, it felt like leaving another world behind. The hallway stretched long and quiet, its gray carpet glowing under soft lights that reflected like streams of memory flowing backward toward her. In her hands, the small wooden box trembled with every heartbeat. Daniel walked beside her, silent. He understood what was moving through her mind. What she had found wasn't just an inheritance. It was a responsibility that blurred the line between personal and universal. Lily stopped in the middle of the hall. Mr. Henry, what did he want me to do with all of this? Daniel exhaled slowly. He said, when the time comes, you'll know. The time comes? When is that enough? He met her eyes, calm but firm. When you're no longer afraid of losing. The words settled deep. For a moment, Henry's image returned in her mind, his trembling hands around a coffee cup, that tired but gentle smile. He had never feared losing anything, only not passing the right things on in time. That evening, Lily returned to Westway Diner. Rain drizzled softly on the metal roof. Streetlights rippled across shallow puddles. She opened the door, the smell of coffee and baked bread still there, painfully familiar. Donna was wiping tables. She looked up, startled. Good heavens, Lily. Are you all right? Everyone's been talking about Mr. Whitmore. Lily placed the wooden box on the counter. Maybe I'm still trying to understand him. Gus came out of the kitchen, drying his hands. He left you the diner, didn't he? Not just the diner, the reason to keep it alive. She opened the box and lifted out the golden key. Donna stared. What is that? The last gift he left me, and maybe the hardest test. Lily looked around the diner. Every table, every chair, every flicker of light across the glass carried a piece of Henry's soul. She whispered softly. If kindness had a shape, it would look like this place. Gus tilted his head, voice gentle. So, what will you do with it? She smiled, her tone steady now. Keep the promise. Make Westway Diner a place where anyone who walks in feels seen, even just once. That night, Lily stayed after closing. The rain had stopped. Only the drip of water outside broke the quiet. She opened Henry's old leather notebook. Between the pages, a small envelope lay pressed flat. In blue ink, it read, "For when she's ready." She opened it. Inside was a short letter, not about money or terms, but a hand-drawn map. From Whitmore Tower, a single line stretched all the way to Westway Diner, ending with one final phrase written beneath it. The foundation begins here. Lily sat still, tears sliding down her face. Henry hadn't just left her at a diner. He had left a beginning, a foundation, a mission to carry kindness into action. The next morning, she hung a new sign outside the door. The words were engraved in gold. The Whitmore Foundation, a place to begin again. Donna stood beside her, eyes glistening. "You're really going to do this?" "Not me. Us." Gus smiled softly. "And he's definitely watching this." Lily took a deep breath. Morning light spilled through the window, glowing across the new logo, warm and golden. She whispered, steady but tender. "Thank you, Henry, for believing that even a small cup of coffee can change a life." Daniel appeared in the doorway, holding one last envelope. "Lily, there's one more thing." She took it carefully, her pulse quickening. Inside was a single page. Henry's handwriting is shaky but strong. "It isn't the wealth I leave that is the gift. It's the trust I gave. Pass it on, the way you once did for me." Lily folded the paper gently, a quiet smile forming through her tears. Outside, sunlight spilled across the street. Inside, steam rose from fresh coffee, filling the air with warmth and peace. Henry was gone, but his legacy breathed through every look, every act, every cup Lily poured. And for the first time in a long while, she understood. The greatest gift isn't what we receive, but what we choose to give back. Outside the window, the small sign swayed softly in the wind. Begin again. Like a wish, like a promise, like a door opening once more. For a new journey, born from kindness. Rumors of a special meeting slipped through the glass walls and settled in the wary eyes of those who held the votes. Lily entered with Daniel and Thomas, breath steadying her heart, fingers quietly gripping Henry's envelope like a reminder to be brave. The boardroom ran long, the air heavy with the smell of old compromises. Victoria sat straight, her proud neck like a warning. Cole lounged half back, a thin smile keeping time with a cocky tap of fingers. In the gallery, Victor Kincaid kept still, his gaze cool as steel dipped in frost. Pleasantries drifted by like mist. Then Cole asked to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to accelerate," he said softly. "We need the courage to step out of the past's shadow." He drew perfect curves, wider market share, exploding efficiency, swelling dividends. Each line flowed like an ad rehearsed to shine. Lily listened, and remembered the spoon touching the cup each dawn at Westway Diner. She was not here to win a debate, but to keep a soul from being sold cheap. Cole sealed his pitch like a flourish of red ink. "I move for a vote of no confidence, and for authority to negotiate strategy with Kincaid." A few nods swayed, like grass bending under a passing wind. Victoria closed a small smile, her eyes still cold. Thomas leaned toward Lily. "Now," he whispered. Daniel nodded. Lily stood. Whispers rose. "Who is that?" "The diner girl. A one shareholder." Lily did not defend herself. She spoke softly, but clearly. "I am Lily Hart. I hold one share, and one story." Cole laughed. "The boardroom is not a place for stories." "Then call it a reminder," Lily answered. "This company was raised on character before it was priced in numbers." The room hesitated a beat. She told of a man who came each morning, hands trembling over toast, the bitterness of black coffee, and a nod in place of thanks. He had a name, Henry Whitmore. Chairs rustled. Victoria clenched the armrest. Victor Kincaid flicked a glance, then stilled again. Lily set an envelope on the center table. "This is Mr. Henry's private letter, sealed by counsel, to be opened only when someone tries to sell us to Kincaid." Daniel confirmed the signatures, his voice even like a windless lake. The chair nodded. "Please read." Lily opened it. Not the language of contracts, but the confession of a lifetime. Mr. Henry wrote of a climb uphill, the glare of fame blinding the eyes, and long nights woken by a conscience knocking at the door. He wrote of Westway Diner, where he relearned how to be human, how to listen, how to return names to people turned into numbers. Do not sell this company to those who see price and not people. The last line warmed like furnace fire. If anyone trades dignity for points on a board, do not hand them the wheel. Silence tightened like a string. Cole snapped his fingers lightly. Emotion, a memory exhibit, is not strategy. Daniel laid down another packet. And this is the strategy you hid. The private calendar with Kincaid, the draft merger, the asset breakup plan, and the personal bounty for the proposer. The air cracked. An older director narrowed his eyes. You reached this stage without the board? Cole shrugged. Exploration, so we are ready when timing ripens. Or to ripen it by force, Thomas murmured. Victoria turned to Cole, voice slipping through clenched teeth. You promised me. Cole cut in. Do you want a legacy or a museum? Lily met Cole's eyes. I am not here for your family matters. Only one question. When did you last call someone by their name, not their role? Cole stalled half a beat, then smirked. The diner play. Lily opened a second envelope. A signed draft Henry left behind, the Whitmore Foundation model, allocating recurring profit to restore communities, fund apprenticeships, reward integrity initiatives across the supply chain. Not to pretty up numbers, but to build ethics into profit, she said quietly. An investment member frowned. How do you measure ethics? By discounting reputation risk, Thomas replied, and by trust retained through crisis. Cole waved it off. The market pays for results, not stories. The market pays for results carried by trust, Lily said. Trust is the invisible cost of capital you are burning. The chair asked for legal guidance. Daniel looked up. The will's addendum protects this. Any agreement with the Kincaid Group requires approval by a majority of independent shareholders after full disclosure of the proposer's personal benefits. Victor Kincaid smiled politely. If you need more time, I am in no hurry. His voice was sweet, but everyone caught the scent of metal. A young director faced Lily. If we delay, what next? 3 steps, Lily answered. Suspend all contact with Kincaid, engage an independent audit of conflicts, and adopt the Whitmore Foundation as a public commitment to employees and the market. Cole shot up. Enough! We are being led by a waitress. She is a shareholder, the senior director cut in, and the only one today who reminded me why we first sat at this table. Victoria studied Lily, her look passing like a tested blade. If I ask, who runs the foundation? I will coordinate the launch with an independent advisory council, and I invite you to serve, Lily said. Not to paint it pretty, but to correct me when I slip. Victoria's eyelids trembled. You think I need an invitation to keep you in check. I think you need a reason to reopen the door that fear locked, Lily whispered. The air changed color. Thomas raised his hand. I support pausing negotiations. I support the foundation, and I will draft operating principles grounded in verifiable integrity. Cole turned to his block. We came to be bold, do not fear a soft story. One ally hesitated, one looked away, one shuffled notes. The soft thing was softening hands that once believed they could only clench. The chair drew a slow breath. Vote to delay negotiations with Kincaid. Arms lifted, uncertain, then higher, then more. The balance tipped. Cole stared at the tally, jaw set. He swallowed the heat and shaped it into a late smile. A brave decision. May it not be a regret. Next, vote to establish the Whitmore Foundation, the chair said. More hands rose, faster. Victoria lifted her hand slowly. I vote in favor, for the family's honor, and for a part of who I once was. The murmurs eased, like the sea drawing back after a first wind. Daniel recorded the result, his voice steady as an anchor mark. Victor Kincaid stood, the polite smile unchanged. You have chosen the hard road. The hard road teaches well. We will meet again. He left. A thread of challenge stretched taut across the room. Lily sat. Her hand shook once, then stilled. Thomas leaned in. You hit the brakes at the right moment. Mr. Henry installed them, Lily said softly. I only pressed down. Cole stepped close, voice low as air slipping through a door crack. The game is not over. Then play by the rules of trust, Lily answered, because other rules have begun to devour people. Victoria stopped before Lily. A pause, just long enough for honesty to take shape. If you are wrong, I will be the first to shut the foundation down. If I am wrong, Westway Diner will cool first, and I will stop pouring coffee, Lily said. I will not teach anyone to drink what is false. Victoria searched her eyes, then gave a small nod. We will see. An older director approached. I walked half a life beside Mr. Henry, hearing you today. I glimpsed him again, before numbers made his voice hoarse. Thank you for remembering, Lily said. Remembering is the first step toward repair. The chair closed the session. Chairs slid. Papers touched like dry leaves. In those small sounds, a new direction set its ink. Lily left with Daniel and Thomas. Outside, the sky opened to a different shade of light. Her phone hummed. A message from Gus, a photo of the Westway coffee counter, a new shining thermos, and a small plaque catching warm gold. Whitmore Foundation, a place to begin again. Lily smiled, then remembered the next wave. Cole had not vanished, and Kincaid even less. Hands raised today could be tugged tomorrow by whispers in the dark. She tightened on Henry's old envelope, feeling warmth still there. We are not done, Thomas said. Yes, but today we kept the breath, Lily replied. She texted Gus one short line. Keep the coffee warm. I'm coming home. At the end of the hall, Cole made a quick call, his voice slipping away around a corner. A cold stripe moved along her spine, a warning that the first crest had only just risen. Lily walked on, lighter steps, but farther eyes. She knew the battle would change arenas, from boardroom to hearts, from shares to trust. And at Westway Diner, a hot cup would always wait for someone returning, to remember why they began. The first morning after the meeting, the city seemed to breathe more slowly. Soft sunlight filtered through clouds, falling on the new sign above Westway Diner. The words, Whitmore Foundation, glimmered on the glass, as if Henry was still watching from the other side. Lily stood by the door, a cup of coffee in her hand. The aroma spread through the cool air, warm and gentle. Gus walked over, flour still on his hands. Same flavor as always? No, she smiled. Today, it has a little courage in it. Donna wiped a table, smiling when she saw her. I watched the news last night. They called you the woman who saved a corporation. Lily shook her head. I didn't save anyone. I just gave them back the memory they'd lost. The bell above the door chimed. A young boy in a school uniform stepped in, holding a small letter of introduction. I got the Whitmore Scholarship. Are you Miss Lily? She knelt slightly, taking the letter, her eyes misting. Yes, and you're exactly why we began. The boy sat down. Donna placed a warm glass of milk before him. Lily watched, feeling something unfamiliar rise inside her. As if everything once lost had returned in another form. Someone may leave, but the light they leave behind still warms those who stay. The curtain swayed softly. On the counter, a framed photo of Henry caught the light. His gentle smile, deep wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. Below it, a small brass plate read, Kindness is a form of power. Gus looked up, his tone slow and steady. He left you the whole world, Lily. She shook her head. No, he left me a question. What will I do with the kindness I was given? Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Audit complete. The foundation approved. Cole is in retreat. Victor is silent. Lily read it slowly and replied with 2 words. Thank you. Then Thomas called. You holding up? I'm fine, just a little afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid people will forget. Kindness needs to be reminded every day. Thomas chuckled softly. Then remind them, with coffee, with pie, with never leaving anyone behind. She ended the call, took a deep breath. Every sound in Westway felt more alive than ever. The knife cutting bread, oil sizzling, Donna's quiet laughter. It was the music of a world finding its rhythm again. An old man entered slowly, holding a folded newspaper. "You must be Lily. I once knew Henry. He always said, 'If you meet her, tell her I found my faith again,' before it was too late." Lily's throat tightened. She pulled out a chair for him. "Thank you for telling me." By noon, the diner was fuller than usual. Not from curiosity, but from people wanting to witness something growing, a quiet belief that kindness still had a place in this world. Each guest left a few coins in the small charity box with a handwritten note. For someone who needs a beginning. When evening fell, the last rays of light touched the table where Henry once sat. Lily set a cup of coffee there, steam rising like an old greeting. "See that, Henry? Everything still goes on." A soft wind brushed her hair, lifted the edge of the tablecloth. She smiled. "And I'll keep going, because this is only the beginning." Outside, the Whitmore Foundation sign shimmered in the sunset. The scholarship boy waited for his mother, holding his half-finished milk, whispering the words Henry once said. "Kindness is power." Lily heard him and softly replied. "And power is a responsibility." Night came, but Westway Diner never turned off its lights. The door stayed open, coffee stayed warm, Henry's chair was never empty. One story had closed, only to open hundreds more. Before locking up, Lily wrote in her notebook. Another day passed, no miracles at all, only people remembering how to look at each other with warmth. She paused and smiled. Maybe that's the miracle? She hung a small sign on the glass door. 2 words only. Begin again. Outside, night settled over the city. But inside the little diner, the light stayed warm, like a candle that refuses to go out. Lily spoke softly, as if to Henry, to herself, and to those she'd never met. "Thank you for believing that a cup of coffee, a smile, a slice of bread can change a life." And in that gentle warmth that lingered through the night, a new chapter truly began. That night, Westway Diner was silent, as if holding a secret. The warm yellow lights reflected on the tables, where hundreds of untold stories had once unfolded. Lily sat alone, her hand resting on the old leather notebook. The last unfinished line read, "Kindness is not a moment, it's a way of being," she whispered softly. "Not everyone sees it, but anyone can begin." Outside, the wind brushed against the new sign, making a faint sound like a quiet reply. Her story was no longer just about Henry, nor about a small diner, but about what he had seen in her. A simple belief that kindness still had the strength to guide people back to what's right. Everything had begun with a single slice of bread, a cup of coffee filled to the brim. A question was asked without expecting an answer. Those small things had now grown into scholarships, new jobs, and trust reaching corners of the city she'd never seen. Lily smiled faintly. She knew Henry would have loved that. Because he once said, "Money can build walls, but only trust opens doors." She closed the notebook and looked around the diner. Donna was turning off the stove. Gus was drying the last glass. Everyone moved quietly, as if they were serving not just customers, but the memory of a man who'd gone. Lily stood, poured another cup of coffee, and placed it before Henry's photo. "Today, we helped 6 students. 3 people found jobs. And 1 person said they believe in humanity again." She paused a beat. "Maybe that's the real profit." Outside the window, the city still glowed. Traffic flowed. People hurried. But somewhere in that restless rhythm, there were still those, like Henry, like Lily, like you, who chose kindness as the common language of humankind. Because kindness needs no audience. Because dignity needs no defense. Because light only needs one keeper, so others can see and not lose their way. If you're still listening now, maybe you, too, once thought the world had gone numb, that people only think for themselves. But stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and remember, Henry was once just a lonely man in that same world, until someone smiled at him, not for gain, but out of simple grace. Kindness doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be real. A shared breakfast. A question was asked gently. A bit of patience for someone trembling in front of you. Each of those small things, when added together, can save a soul from believing it no longer matters. Sometimes, the only thing standing between despair and hope is one person willing to stop. Like Lily once stopped, and Henry saw it. If this story reached you, hold it, tell it, and begin right where you stand. Pour someone a cup of coffee, or simply smile, even when the world forgets to smile back. Because you never know. Someone might need that light just to make it through one more day. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you believe that kindness still matters, please subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment with just 3 words, I believe again. Because when you write those words, that small light begins to spread.